I hear bits and pieces, which is
Okay.
probably good. Just arm's length is probably good. I want fans to be fanatical. I want our fans to be fanatical. And again, I mean, the internet can bring out creativity. Uh, really shines through on the internet and social media, and so I've got a couple glimpses from our recruiting staff and some people around, and not disappointed with the creativity coming out of the Cal fan base.
Welcome back, or welcome to Y Option. I'm your host, Yogi Roth, and we are into week 6. We got a lot of great games coming up in college football, and as always, we will bring you college football through the lens of the West Coast. And today, we are all West Coast. Jim Thornby, co-founder of Y Option, joins me as well. And later on in this episode, we'll be joined by the head coach of the most popular team in America this year, or this week, I should say, at least one of the two, because College GameDay is going to Berkeley, and we have Justin Wilcox on as our guest, the head coach of the Cal Bears. So with that, Jim, you live in NorCal, all right? You've seen the algorithm, man. How you feeling this week as we anticipate game day coming to your neck of the woods?
It's good, and I feel really good for the Cal fans because they were one of the last 6 Power 5 schools to host us. So now there'll be 5 more, but none of those 5 are on the West Coast. So this checks the end of the West Coast Power 5, as at least as we've known the Power 5 for the extended time. So it's going to be their first ever ACC home game, which, as we talked about the other day, Bruce Feldman mentioned, this is just weird that this is an ACC game. I saw a tweet Wednesday afternoon about how Miami's truck was like 1,200 miles in and still not even halfway to Cal, the equipment truck. So it's gonna be fun. Can't wait to see all the crazy signs and everything else from these Cal fans that are gonna be hungry for this.
I love that. Okay, so I think you have a busy weekend. So I'm not sure if you're going to make it to the early start of College Game Day, but lay out, because you've done this before when College Game Day is coming to the West Coast. You're running communications for the Pac-12 and specifically leading the football charge. What is it like? Like, how early is it? Like, what can you tell the Cal fans that are going to be listening to this episode? How can you help them out?
Well, the good thing is that BART is running early trains, but I don't even know if they're early enough, to be honest, for you to get there, to get where you want to be when you want to be, because it does start early. The students, we're going to be counting on the students this weekend to do their thing, but the students get there super early. I think the show starts 6 a.m. Pacific. I want to say the 2 times I went, which was the Oregon UCLA one in Westwood a couple of years ago, and then the following year when it was in Eugene, the same matchup. I want to say I was there at like 4:30 both of those days, and it was already a zoo, like with the students and everybody lined up. So like, get there early, get there very early. And I know they do stuff on Friday, on Friday as well. We're shooting shows on campus and stuff like that. So there's a lot to see over the weekend, but it's fun. Like especially like when I've gone those 2 times, I've kind of gotten a media credential and kind of been behind the scenes, not really in the mix of anything, but just kind of backstage and watching, and it's just hilarious, dude. It's such a zoo. The signs are all crazy. We know Old Crimson will be there, so yeah, it'll be a good time. It'll be Berkeley style, but it'll be a good time.
It'll be a great time. And I think it's just important to note that for one weekend, a year, you get to really celebrate your school when game day comes on that year. And I think it's a great opportunity for Cal fans to celebrate what Cal is all about. Like, yes, it's diverse. It's hilarious. It's got, a very eclectic nature to it, but it also has a really rich history in football. And it also has a chance to make a lot of noise in college football this year. And we'll talk to Justin Wilcox about that, of when he took the job, how he had it going. COVID really hampered and impacted, that community, of course, among many others across the country, but definitely in college athletics, Cal was really challenged, and he stuck with it, right? This is a guy who could have taken other jobs, obviously turned down Oregon. Everybody knows about that because he felt really committed to Cal. So we'll talk to him about things like that in our interview coming up in just a few moments. But with that, the game. If there's one thing that you're looking forward to in the game, and for Cal fans, party in the morning, nap during the day, and get back for the game at kickoff in the evening. Jim, what is it for you?
The nap during the game will be critical for those fans. That's 100%.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is just the familiarity. Even though like it's Cal over here, Miami over here, there's so much familiarity with this game. Just between, obviously Justin and Mario have coached against each other when he was at Oregon. But then, you look at the Miami team. Cam Ward played at Berkeley last year with Wazoo. Damian Martinez played at Berkeley last year with Oregon State. So it's we're going to have the two first team all Pac-12 running backs facing off against each other in an ACC game this weekend. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to. Just really sitting in the absurdity of where we're at in college football right now.
Okay. If you haven't tweeted that out, do it. I got a feeling that one is going to go pretty good. Everyone involved, from Corvallis, who they play this weekend against Colorado State, to Miami, to, of course, the Cal Bear fan base. I think we'll all get a chuckle out of that one. Okay, real quick, Stanford, we don't know what's going to go on at quarterback there, so keep an eye on that as Vatek comes to town. Virginia Tech, I've watched them a few times this year just based on crossover film. They're a dangerous team, as is Stanford. They got to bounce back from a challenging loss, of course, a week ago at Clemson. Speaking of Clemson, they go to Florida State. DJ Uiagalelei not going to play. He hurt his finger, so everybody thought, I think, that he was benched, but really he may have an injured finger on his throwing hand. So we'll track that in Mike Norvell's squad. We talked about that a little bit with Bruce Feldman, as you referenced. Check out that episode from earlier in the week. Okay.
And it's kind of funny too, right? Just real quick before we move on, that that Miami Vatek game last week was insane, and now both teams are playing in the Bay Area this weekend. Yeah. So it's just again
should have shared a plane. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they want to be around each other this week, this weekend after last weekend. So.
Yeah, I know they don't want to be around like the replay, because that was wild, and
yeah.
I actually, it's another conversation. Okay, so let's talk about. I've really enjoyed. I've always enjoyed Thursday and Friday night football, from a player playing against the Miami Hurricanes on a Thursday night. We talked about that in our most recent newsletter. Check that out. But also now watching. Right, I'll fly into Minneapolis this weekend. I got Minnesota, USC, so I'm going to the East Coast as other teams are coming west. But Friday night we'll be glued to a really unique matchup. Jonathan Smith, Michigan State, against the Oregon Ducks, of course, in the state of Oregon, where Jonathan Smith became a prize player and, got all of his notoriety as a head coach, of course, in his first head job at Oregon State. What do you make of this game? And also, what have you learned in the social research? Because you did send out a tweet that, like, would you ask Oregon State fans who they'd be rooting for? Was that what it was?
Yeah, who are they rooting for? They're rooting for Michigan State with Jonathan, or Oregon, their number one rival, or does it not matter to them? And 51% were like, not matter. Although I think the not matter is also like, there was a lot in the comments where it was, can both teams lose? I'm rooting for the Meteor, like, everything of that. But I think, and honestly, I think it's all in good fun at this point. But as far as the actual two teams, more people were rooting for Oregon than for Michigan State among that group. So I think it just goes to show you that, things don't heal so quickly. And I get it. Like, I think about, like, as an Arizona alum, when Antonio Pierce was coaching at ASU, and it was like, what's up with that? Like, I couldn't imagine, how that goes. But it happens all the time. You think about UCLA, USC, and Ken Norton, on the opposite sidelines and stuff like that. So I think, the fans eventually, I think, get past it. But it's, I think, a little harder because Jonathan Smith is one of the all-time greats in Oregon State. I mean, as far as, like, what he was able to accomplish as a player, and then come back there and do it again as a coach to kind of, like, do that. So it'll be, I think that part will be really interesting. The other part that I find pretty interesting is, like, the preseason Heisman favorite was Dylan Gabriel. And like, you don't really hear a lot of buzz about him for that right now, which is probably a good thing for him. His completion percentage is 81.5%, leading the country. I mean, so it's hilarious that like, it's like, oh yeah, maybe he's not, he's doing just fine. He's 4 points better right now than Bo Nix was last year, who had like the highest on record. And now Dylan is even above that. So, obviously as we get into bigger, as get into more of these conference games, if he's able to keep up that pace, his stock will continue to go up on that. But I just found that kind of funny with him.
Yeah, no, he's been playing at a high level. I think Oregon has been every week one of the most improved teams that I've seen on tape. And we knew what the standard was for them when they kicked it off against Idaho in week 1, a little over a month ago. I like this game. You go back and you watch Ohio State, Michigan State a week ago. Michigan State has the ball 3 times inside the 20 on their first 3 possessions. Turn it over twice and a turnover on downs the 3rd time. So I don't think that they can't be on the same field as the Ducks. I just think they have to win in the margins, and their margin for error is 0, right? They have to win on a fake punt. They can't lose on a fake punt. They have to win on a ball up in the air, bat it around. You got to have an interception. Like, that is going to be the thing. And then for Oregon, I just think that they're just getting into their best ball right now. And we all know what's coming next week with the Ohio State Buckeyes coming to town, right? Da-da-da-da-da. So I love the game. I love the focus game for both teams. I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game come Friday night. Okay, so let's go to Saturday. Another team from the East to the West. That's a theme here in Week 6. We got a rematch of the national championship game.
Ready, set, dream cabin nestled in the woods. Just 4 hours to go. New job halfway across the country. Butterflies before a first date. Wherever you go, 76 fuels all the ways you go, go, go.
Right, Jim, we were supposed to have this game a couple years ago. COVID wiped it out in Seattle. So Jimmy Lake took his team at the time to Michigan. They got drilled. Cade McNamara was the quarterback. By the way, he's starting at Iowa now. Okay, so this is all the things that of course, have happened in the drama, which is college football. Now, a Michigan team that I think I've watched them so much this year, Jim. They're as good as anybody in America in terms of their offensive line targeting, in terms of like they need to block the upfield shoulder of a defensive end. They do that. They need to pull and hit you right down the middle. They do that. They got their tight end in motion. They need to kick somebody out. They do that. They're just like clinic worthy in that regard. But they haven't been able to throw the ball with much success or accuracy. I think they've completed more balls last week, but when they needed to hit the front shoulder, they hit the back shoulder. In this game, if I'm UW, I'm taking the ball and I am trying to get up 2 scores as quickly as possible. Because that's the thing we don't know. Like, Michigan reminds me, they're better on defense, but it reminds me of like Utah teams in the past, where like they're championship caliber, but you don't know if they could come back if they have to through the air. And that's what I want to see. I just want to see if Michigan can do it. I hope they can. I'm a believer in Alex Orji, but I'm also a believer in UW, who continues to beat themselves. They're either going to get this one or the next one on the road at Iowa. I'm curious how you see the rematch of the national championship game from a year ago.
Yeah, I told you in the last episode, I wasn't quite ready to go with you on that. Washington was going to need to do some more research. I did the research, and now I'm with you. I think,
calling an upset. Here we go.
And the funny thing is, I think if you look at some of the betting lines, I don't even know if it's even really considered an upset, which is the really funny thing of a top 10 team against an unranked team. But the last 3 weeks, Michigan has won by a total of 16 points. They've won 27 straight conference games. Their last loss was 2021 at Michigan State. So just on that part alone, they're kind of due. And then for UW, they're in the top 20 of both yards per play on offense and yards per play on defense. So it's not like they haven't been able to do stuff. They just haven't been able to put it all together. And their 3 games at home, they haven't allowed a touchdown. So I think just all the factors coming together, and maybe this is Michigan pulling a rope-a-dope on us. I don't know. But all the factors coming together makes me think that this is going to be the week for Jed Fish in Washington to pull through.
And I go a little historical too, of I remember Steve Sarkisian's first year at UW. We went up there at SC to play. Aaron Corp was the starting quarterback because Matt Barkley was hurt. And Sark wins. I just think there might be something here Like this could be the moment where it kind of comes together for Jedd Fisch in year one, where they get a win, because I think they're capable, to your point, of doing that. UCLA, after playing at 8 p.m. Pacific, now go play at 9 a.m. Pacific, going to Penn State against a team that they're much like Oregon. Like they've gotten better every week as well. I think they're in the conversation, one of the most physical teams in America. This defensive front seven is monstrous. UCLA has struggled on the offensive line. They've struggled scoring points. They only have 4 offensive touchdowns on the season, right? They had a pick 6 last week, and they're kicking a bunch of field goals. But you want to win this game in this environment, I think you got to do that. It's also big noon kickoff, which means if you were hoping Penn State wouldn't be excited, here comes the crew from Fox. Like it's going to laser them in. So I'm curious what you think about this game, and if you know anything, and an update on Ethan Garbers, the quarterback at UCLA.
Yeah, well, the last I saw with him, he didn't practice on Tuesday because he got banged up. He's been sacked 9 times the last 2 weeks, 12 times in 4 games this year. He was sacked 12 times in 8 games last year. So we'll see what's up with that. And this is a Penn State team that had 7 sacks last week against Illinois. So that is going to – I think that's going to be the number one factor of that game is can Ethan Garbers or whoever else is playing quarterback in that game stay upright and get some plays, because to your point, this Penn State team is pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay, Iowa at Ohio State. I think Ohio State wins that ball game at another true test. If you're a West Coast fan, you want Ohio State to win that game. You also want, I think, Indiana Northwestern. You'd love to see Indiana take an L if you're on the West Coast. Why do I say that? It's like we're talking about the playoff to a certain degree, right? In 3 weeks, we'll have the first release of or 4 weeks, I guess, the first rankings release. The fringe teams that don't make the championship game in their league, if they're in one of these monster leagues like the SEC or the Big Ten and they're 10-2, they got a chance to edge out the team who loses the championship game in the Big 12, right? If we're Washington State, Oregon State, if you run the table, you would get edged out, in my opinion, by a 10-2 Indiana or a 10-2 Nebraska. So just keep an eye on those. Rutgers and Nebraska, undefeated Rutgers, and Nebraska only has 1 loss. So we'll see how that one shakes out. Always kind of giving you the lines.
I think to your point there, I think with the Big Ten and the SEC, like if you're, you're one of the Pac-12 schools, you want more top heavy in those leagues. You want those few teams to really go out, whereas you want more chaos in the ACC and the Big 12. I think that's kind of like the dividing line, like, because there's going to be, you look at what the AP rankings are right now, and that's where we're at right now. They're so top heavy with SEC and Big Ten teams. You want a few teams from both of those to really kind of, shoot the moon and go to the top there, and try and make everybody else very kind of on the average. Whereas in the ACC, I think you want complete ACC and Big 12. You want complete chaos because there's not currently that elite team. We'll see with Miami, how they hold up, but there's not that between the two of them. There's not really the elite team. I mean, Iowa State is the highest rated team in the Big 12, and they're 16. So
right, that's crazy.
That tells you right there.
Yeah, that's a really unique point. I think the ACC with Clemson and Miami, right? Like you're obviously rooting for Cal this weekend to win on the West Coast in that league, because I think if you have 2 teams that are ranked really high and have really established brands at the end, the loser of a champ game, if it's a good game, probably gets in. And that's going to be the debate on, I think, 9, 10, 11 slot. If you're going to imagine 12 is always there to be the 5th, as Jim Thornby has educated us, the 5th conference champion, not just the group of 5. Check that out in the most recent episode if you missed it. Okay, let's go to the Big 12. A chance to talk to Brent Brennan earlier this week. They host Texas Tech. They made a change as a play caller right at Arizona. Kansas goes to Arizona State, which I think is kind of a sneaky good, like high scoring, fun affair of a game. You referenced Baylor at Iowa State, West Virginia, Oklahoma State to kind of round out the league. But in the 2 Arizona schools, Jim, what are you thinking? What are you looking forward to from an alma mater with, you could argue, their biggest win? I mean, I get the quarterback was out, but they didn't have big wins last year, right? They had big losses.
It'll be interesting to see because, Texas Tech is kind of a sneaky 2-0 in the Big 12, after losing to Wazoo. They lost that game by 37-16, but that was their only road game. everything else they've won at home, and now they're going on the road to Tucson this week. They've got a really good running back in Taj Brooks. He had 172 and two scores against Cincy. He's gone for over 100 in all 4 of his games. I would say that, I don't want to say, by no means do I want to say lucky, but Arizona was fortunate to win on Saturday night. They were able to stop Utah on fourth down 4 times, including the first 2 possessions. I mean, if Utah is a little bit more conservative on those and, kicks field goals instead, like, do we see, is there a different result there? I mean, that's not a criticism of Kyle at all. I'm just saying that, like, that there could have been a different path there. And how did Arizona respond to that? But in those fourth down situations, they responded there. So it's going to be interesting to see if Arizona can keep that momentum going from that Utah game.
Yeah, I'm curious. And also I'm curious to watch ASU coming off a bye week, right? Like, here's Kansas coming to town. They lost to the aforementioned Texas Tech. Jalen Daniels is the guy, the playmaker at quarterback for Kansas. Fun fact, DS Burke, which is a great follow on social media, is the SID for Kansas. Used to be at Arizona. We love you,
Yeah.
Mr. Burke. So check him out. He's a good buddy, isn't he, Jim?
Yeah, Dan Burke. I mean, he also, not only was he the SID at Arizona, he used to be the beat writer at Arizona too, at the Arizona Daily Star. So, like, he's well connected there in Tucson, even to this day.
Yeah, he is, even to this day.
But Jalen Daniels, you mentioned, I mean, he's got 8 picks already this year in just 5 games. Coming into the season, he had 12 in 25 games. So ASU, what was the note that I had for him? They're +5 on turnovers this season. So if they can continue that, like, it might be a long day for the Jayhawks.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting note, right? Andy Kotelnicki was the one-time OC at Kansas. He's now at Penn State. UCLA plays Penn State. Their offense of the Nittany Lions looks a lot better, more improved than a year ago under Drew Aller. And then next week, Penn State goes from East Coast to West Coast and comes out to the Coliseum. We'll have a lot about that game. Finally, Colorado State, Oregon State. What do you think about that? UNLV, do they stay undefeated? Utah State goes against Boise State, 2 teams that are going to be, interestingly, in the Pac-12 in a couple years. Jim, what do you think of our final few games?
Yeah, Colorado State, they have not played well on the road. They've lost 9 of their last 10. And Oregon State, that's, obviously been a strength of theirs, 18-3 of their since 2021 at home. They haven't lost to an unranked team at home since 2020. It'll be. I think the one thing Colorado State has going for them is their rush defense has been pretty good. Against Texas, they gave up 190 yards, but other than that, they haven't given up more than 109 in a game. They've only given up 3 rushing touchdowns in the 4 games so far. Those all 3 were to Texas. So that will be the challenge for Oregon State. Can they run the ball against the Rams defense?
Yeah, I'll be curious as well when you're looking at UNLV. I want to see if they can pack the house. Right, you got Syracuse coming to town. You've heard all the dialogue around your program the last couple of weeks, the last really week, around your quarterback, your collective, etc. Well, you've kept winning, and now you've got an ACC team playing in Vegas.
They're already 2-0 against the Big 12. UNLV is this year. So
I want to see the crowd. Like, I know they can play. I want to see, can that place respond? Because if you can't fill it up in this environment against a team that's got a national alumni base, a team in a Power 5 conference, and you got a lot of juice right now, I'm curious. I'll click into that.
And we know that stadium can get loud. That's for sure. Utah fans have proven that for a fact.
Yeah, I hope it does. Okay, so as I referenced earlier, I'm heading to Minnesota, USC in this game. I think this is a really fun game for a couple reasons. One, their stadium is really unique. Most stadiums, to my understanding, are like north and south. That's how they're built. This is one of very few in college football that are east and west. So what does that mean? Like, the wind is different. In the beginning of the game, the sun is different. It'll just be kind of something fun for us to see in that regard. I also think that for SC, when they're studying Minnesota's defense, Minnesota hasn't played anybody like USC. Like, you could argue it. I went back and watched the North Carolina game last night to be like, did they do anything SC does? And there's a few elements of some of the things that they do, but they played Iowa and Michigan the last 2 weeks. Minnesota's the number 1 passing defense in America. Maybe they are that, but they also played 2 teams that really didn't throw the ball a lot or don't throw the ball a lot. Iowa ran all over them in the second half, and Michigan, that's just kind of who they are. But they play hard. They play tough. I think this is an opportunity to be like sneaky, great game of the weekend. It's a night game. It's a primetime game on the East Coast. I cannot wait to get out there. We'll see how healthy the Trojans are. Eric Gentry, is he going to play? We'll see. He had to leave the previous game. So looking forward to all of that as we conclude here, and fired up because we get our great guest. Next, he just popped in. It's the head coach of the Cal Bears, Justin Wilcox. What up, Coach?
Hey, this is my first podcast. Is this this is a real podcast?
This is
I've never been on a podcast before. This is amazing. I'm so honored. Thank you. It's awesome to see you all. Holy smokes. Kidding me? I feel like I can check a box now.
Check the box, indeed. I love it. Jim, are we ready to roll?
Yeah, let's go ahead and give the tagline here, Yogs, and then I'll make myself disappear for the audience.
Okay, so with that, we get to bring in one of my favorite people on planet Earth, Justin Wilcox. And this section is fueled by our founding partner, 76, keeping you in the know as you are on the go, go, go. So with that, here comes our special guest of the day, Justin Wilcox. All right, here we are. Justin Wilcox, J-Dub. Yeah, like I've known you for so long, man. So grateful that you take the time on a busy week with College GameDay coming to town to hop on Y Option. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm honored to be here with you. I have known you a long time, and I think I told you when this all came about, this is my first invitation to a podcast. I've never been on a podcast before. I'm honored, humbled, excited, and I also wanted to ask you, like, why is it Y Option? Where did Y Option come from?
I love it. I appreciate that. I'm so surprised that like Kate Scott hasn't invited you onto like one of the many podcasts that she's probably on. And we're all that's all of our bads, but I'm glad we have you on. Glad this is your first time ever. Okay, so Y Option. So as you know, last year when things were moving the direction they were in the Pac-12, we were calling games all across the country, all across at least the Pac-12 footprint at the time, including your school. And I would talk to coaches, ADs, families, and I kept asking, like, where are you going to learn about your favorite team? Like, where are you going to click into? And they'd say, well, I don't really know. Like, ACC you guys have 16 teams, right? The Big Ten has 18 teams. The Big 12 doesn't have a Big 12 network. Like, it's just hard to compete for airtime. So I was like, okay, every fan is looking for an option, and the schools are looking for an option to tell the players' stories. Okay, that's cool. And then when I started looking for a job, I was like, well, I need an option, right? And then I started thinking about the West Coast in college football, and my foundation is in the West Coast offense. And one of the early day one install plays is Y. Yeah, there you go. Y option, baby. And that tight end or the Y position can take a go route. He can sit it down. He can break it in, break it out based on the coverage. And my name is Yogi. So I was like, you know what? Let's do that. Let's call it Y option. And we're college football through the lens of the West Coast, which I think we would probably agree. Like, the West Coast is often underserved, right? This is the first time College GameDay has been to Cal. Glad they're here, but it's been a long time coming. So I don't know. I just wanted to kind of have a home for college football on the West Coast, and that's why we called it that.
Well, I'm glad you did it, and I can't think of a better answer than that.
Well, it's the truth. That's all we can do. All right, so tell me about, what is it like to be you this week? Like, you've got College GameDay coming, right? Cal has been pushing, right? The Calgorithm on social media. I know you're not a big social media guy, but there's been a big push for your program in a really beautiful way. It's been fun. It's been very Cal-esque, but to live in the seat that you're in as the head coach now, I'm kind of curious what the week has been like, if any different.
Not a ton different. A little bit of communication on Saturday night and Sunday regarding game day being here, which is, just super cool. How exciting for our students, the fans, our players, the program. Amazing opportunity. But as you know, and it's the answer I would imagine every coach is going to give you. It's like, the best thing we can do as coaches and players is like have a really good week of practice and acknowledge it. Like, we talked about it as a team on Monday in our meeting, which is great. That's so cool. And I'm excited for them, but we have to stay in rhythm and practice and meetings and your class schedule, taking care of your body, all those things, because we have enough to work on and consider throughout the week, and not to get sidetracked by, social media or ticket requests or things like that. We kind of stay in rhythm and keep it about football. That's what we're doing.
I can remember being a player a long time ago, but College GameDay came to Pitt. And it was like you had an extra pep in your step, right? Like if you had a bump and a bruise, like you made sure you practiced. Like you just wanted to be around it and the energy around it, even though it doesn't really come until the back half of the week. I'm curious, like when you talked about it on Monday, because you've got such a team that's founded in being smart and tough, and these are amazing kids at one of the best schools in America. Like how they deal with it. Do you feel the juice? Is there an added element there?
Well, I mean, first of all, our opponent has our attention because Miami's, I mean, one of the best teams in the country, super talented. They're doing a great job. So it's such a great opportunity to compete and test ourselves against the best. And then you add on, the attention, College Game Day. We all grew up watching it, or they grew up watching it. And Saturday morning, you turn the TV on and see where game day is, and listen to all the folks on there and the great storytelling that they do. I mean, I don't know. Is there a bigger sports show out there other than yours, other than College Game Day? I mean, it's big, so it's really cool, and I want them to appreciate that. But take it in the amounts that are you can appreciate, but also keep the focus on football.
Okay, so then how about for you? Like, what do you do in the back half of the week? Like, Pat McAfee has his show, it sounds like, usually on campus on Fridays. Of course, the show is Saturday. Are we going to get an appearance from Justin Wilcox on any of those platforms?
I think on Saturday morning, really, that's the only thing. There's a Saturday morning and maybe one other quick hitter thing. So, that's as we just talked, that's a big show. They got a lot of programming, I'm sure. And, whatever they ask Cal to do, me to do, the program to do, we want to be involved as much as we can. But ultimately, our focus is on the game. And I know that the campus is, I mean, full on, just like engaging with everything. And everybody's very, very excited. I mean, the level of excitement just on campus and the students and the fraternities and the dorms and everywhere is really cool.
Oh, I love it. I know Jim Thornby, our producer and co-founder, he's going to be over there, which will be pretty fun to see the early morning images that will be coming out of Berkeley. For you, though, I want to talk about like Cal football. It's going to be a great stage. Reese Davis is going to ask you a bunch of great questions, and Herb Street and Desmond and the whole crew. But what is the message you want to make sure that people hear about the realities of Cal football?
Yeah, there's a ton of great players that have been through here. Some unbelievable moments when you talk about the history of Cal football, and the possibilities and the potential that live here. And that's why we're all here. And we haven't quite broken through, but I'm fully confident. And the people with a new new chancellor, the support of our alumni, the resources that we have here, the infrastructure, the school, the location, the education, like it is the potential to do something unbelievable here is right in front of us. And I hope that shines through, and that how many people love football here. And I think they're going to be surprised on Saturday morning with the engagement in game day and the fan experience at the game on Saturday night. So obviously the football has to be first and foremost for the coaches and players, but I think the narrative is that, a lot of people care, and this place is primed in a time when there's disruption in college football, but the location, the education, the resources available here, the new chancellor, the alignment, and what that could do for everybody. And there's a lot of excitement in that.
No doubt. I look at like your time there, and there's kind of like 1.0 to me and like 2.0. 1.0, you get the job, and this thing is tracking. And then COVID like takes down the whole world. But the recovery of the community in which you reside in and where you coach, it took a little longer. And I don't think a lot of people know that. They don't know that in 2021, you were still meeting outside, socially distanced. And then 2.0 has basically been like the last 2 years really piecing this thing back together and finding success, of course, that you've had this year. But would you agree with that? And if so, like, how did you navigate this thing as a veteran head coach now, not just a young guy that got his first opportunity?
Yeah, that's amazing how much the job's changed in my time here. But the first few years it was kind of traditional. You get in and make a bowl game our second year, win 8 games. Third year, things are really moving in the right direction. Ton of excitement. The COVID thing was disruptive. It was hard for a lot of folks, and 2020 was difficult for obvious reasons. 2021, it's still made it hard. And then coming out of that, I think since 2021, we were talking about this the other day, 2021, including 2021, 22, and 23, I think there was like 17 or 18 one-score games, and this year. And so we've been right there, and our record in those games hadn't been good. I mean, I think we'd won 4 or 5 out of 17 or something. And if we can do the little things a bit better more often, and it's everybody. It's coaching, it's playing, it's recruiting, it's talent, it's supporting the talent, it's administration, it's everybody doing a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, those games turn into wins, those close games. And all of a sudden you're looking at like, oh, you got 9, 10, 11 wins. Holy smokes. And what that does for the program and the school and the alumni and everybody. And that's where we're at. I mean, it's that close.
What has it been like getting to know this team, right? It's a different era, as you reference, of when we played, or that first, 1.0 of you at Cal, to now with new faces coming in via the portal. Some guys like Fernando Mendoza coming from high school and earning their opportunity to be a starting quarterback for a university. And I'm just kind of curious if you found out the personality of your team here as we hit October.
Yeah, I think in this era, and we had 50 plus new faces in our first team meeting this year compared to a year ago. And I don't think we're all that unique. I bet there's quite a few teams that have a lot of new faces. And the thing that has impressed me the most, and I think it's part recruiting, it's part the current players on the team, it's the staff, is that there is a lot of common ground. And in this kind of era of movement and NIL and transfer portal, there still has to be some standards of how you operate and what's expected and the type of people that you're inviting into the program. And we've been very fortunate because we got a lot of really good guys. I mean, our guys, for having 50 new players, are very connected. And I think it shows up on game days. It doesn't mean we're perfect, and we got a lot of things to work on football-wise, but just from the locker room to practice to meetings to the weekends, I mean, I just hear that the guys spending time together. They like being around each other, and that's important. Football is still a team game as much as some of these, the NIL and the way people talk about the individuals kind of tries to make it individual sport. It's still a team game, and our guys have done a great job of that. So I'm most proud of that. And then it's about, turning the dial up and how we execute on the football field a little better each and every week, and that'll be the key for us moving forward.
Okay, so I want to hear about what it's like to coach two guys in particular. You got Jaden Ott, which I think this game is so interesting. Jim referenced before you came on that you'll have him on the field and Damian Martinez. Both were first-team All-League Pac-12 running backs last year. Now they're playing against each other, which is unique. But what's it like to coach Jaden? And then Fernando Mendoza. Yeah. This is a guy who went to the same high school as Mauro Cristobal, who will be coaching the team opposite of you on Saturday night.
Yeah. I mean, the Miami pipeline right out here to Cal. Well, Jaden, came here out of high school, which was a very good player right away. And you could see it. I remember even in spring ball that year when he first got here, you could tell the talent. And he kind of burst onto the scene, had some big games. Last year, continued on that track. And then this year, unfortunately, had some injuries early on, but been really impressed with his his ability to kind of fight through some of those injuries. He was highly sought after, in this environment in the off season, and chose to stay here. And we appreciate that. And he still works very hard. I mean, it's been one of those things where he hasn't expected anything in terms of how, practice or meetings or that, he wants to be coached and he wants to be held accountable. And so I really appreciate that about Jaden, and looking forward to him being full speed, because when he's full speed, it does a lot for our offense and our team. And then Fernando, and I know you've got a chance to meet and talk with him. He's one of a kind now. He's, came here out of high school. He was going to go to the Ivy League, and then ended up, we found him and got a scholarship. And he is, I tell you what, he's a fantastic guy. He's extremely competitive. He wants it so badly. He works very, very hard. He can throw the ball. he's the mayor. You know, you kind of maybe when you talk to him, you get that same sense, and how he talks to you is exactly how he talks to everybody. I mean, there is no show. Like, he's an original. He is who he is, and he's gotten better as a football player. Just his efficiency. He's protected the ball. He's completing the ball at a pretty good clip, and still going to make a lot of improvements as he gets older, because he's what has he got? 12 games or so under his belt now, something like that. So he's still a pretty young player, and he's going to grow and improve a lot.
Okay, speaking of improvement, we've watched Cam Ward over the years, right? You coached against him when he was at Washington State, and now you're going to have to coach against him again on Saturday against Miami. What does he do so well, and what are some things that you guys, will try to do to slow this offense of Miami down?
Yeah, well, not many people have slowed him down. They're very good. They're very good just offensively. You look scheme-wise, they're good. They got talent at really every position, multiple tight ends. I mean, you mentioned the running backs. I mean, Damian Martinez probably best running back we saw last year, and he's really good. And they got two other guys that are really good at running back. The receivers are good. So, and then the quarterback. I mean, Cam is a special talent. He plays with such calm. He just seems like he's always under control, and that things move pretty slowly for him. I mean, nothing much rattles him. I think he's seen a lot. He's played a lot of football. He can make all different types of throws. He throws it from the pocket on time. And then there are the plays that nobody's practiced, them or us, that happen with him in the improv and the second part of the play. And whether he's scrambling to throw, scrambling to run, buying time to get somebody open, he had the one last week where he flicked it to the tight end for an explosive play. The other team's thinking, oh my gosh, we just got a negative play, great job. And right before he goes down, he flicks it to the tight end. The guy runs down the field. I mean, I don't know that those are drawn up. I wouldn't think that they are. And so he just got a special talent. But I think the number one, he just plays with such calm. He's very in control out there.
It's been interesting to talk to you over the years around your foundation, right? You'd say, while your dad Dave was a Hall of Famer, you'd say I'm the son of a Hall of Farmer, right? You have this humility to you that's really beautiful. In addition, the game has changed drastically, right? NIL, collectives, the portal. We're seeing players opt out after 4 games, saying I want a red shirt, basically saying they want to stop playing this season to transfer to another team. I'm curious for you, like, are the main traits that you showed up at Cal with, or you showed up at Oregon as a player with, are those things you still carry with you to be true, or have you had to adjust based on the times and negotiate some of the core principles that you've held so dearly?
Oh, that is a great question, Yogi, and how you phrased it was spot on. I still believe in football being the ultimate team sport. I'll never change. I realize things have changed in terms of the roster building, roster management. There are times when players are going to come into your program or potentially leave your program. And you still, the challenge for the coaches, I see it as you still have to care and coach them and support them like we always have. And is there a time when somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm leaving, or something happens that you don't feel great about, and then you have to take the high road, And I don't judge the players. I really don't, because they're in this environment that's brand new to them and their families. And whether you're talking about transferring or NIL, I understand the threats that everybody feels, whether it's, well, they can give up fairly easily, or they're just going to the highest bidder. Like, I understand that. And I'm sure that does happen. There's also a ton of guys out there that still want to be coached and be a part of a team. And yeah, they want to have the opportunity to make NIL and all that. But I still, there's still a lot of good football players and good guys out there. And the guys that make some decisions that they got to make, that's like, I don't judge them for that. Like, everybody's situation is a little different. I'm not going to judge a player because he feels like he needs to do something for him and his family. I wouldn't, do you agree with everything? Probably not. But I think if you're not careful, you can become really, really calloused and go down the rabbit hole and like find everything wrong with this environment. I think that's super easy to do. I think it's really easy to find all the problems. We got a lot of problem identifiers, in society right now and around college football, I've met fewer who are problem solvers. So we need to kind of find more problem solvers and maybe how we think about it. And it's not a perfect system. We know that it's not perfect right now. It's probably never going to be perfect. It can be better. I think that everybody's looking for a little bit better system. Everybody wants that. But in the meantime, like, can't take it out on the young people because they're just in this environment, and there's still a lot of great guys that want to be coached and be a part of a team.
Okay, so we'll get you out of here in a couple questions here, but I want to talk about problem solvers because I think you are that, and you were that. When you were hired at Cal, the program was struggling. You were an assistant at Cal prior to the stadium that you get to play in every weekend, and will, of course, play on Saturday night in. For you, what about this place keeps you so connected to it, right? It's been reported. It's out there. You've had many opportunities to go other places, and you've always said, no, I want to keep coming back here. And now you get the biggest spotlight in the history of your time at Cal, whether it was an assistant or as the head coach. And I'm just curious, what about this institution, this football program, this athletic department keeps pulling at you to say, yeah, this is where I want to solve problems?
Yeah, listen, there's no place is perfect. No coach is perfect. No program is perfect. No team's perfect. Everybody has their challenges. What I see is a place that has incredible potential. I go back to this. I mean, the location, the recruiting, the education, the resources, the infrastructure, and, leadership, and all those things have to be put together. And Cal there's been complicated past, and I realize that, but man, how unbelievable it will be when it all comes together, because it can be done, and there is exceptional potential, and we are very close, and I want to be a part of a group that accomplishes that, and not necessarily maybe somebody that's just the next in line somewhere where everything's been great always. I think there's a lot of value in that. And I know there's a lot of people that want to make that happen. I think there's players and coaches and administrators and alumni who really want to make that happen and believe in it, as do I. And, sometimes the easiest path isn't always the best, but I know what this place could be, and we're close, and, I want to make sure I'm a part of the team that makes it happen.
I appreciate you answering that question. I've never asked you that before, so always want to ask questions I don't know the answers to. So with that said, I don't know the answer to this one, Coach. Like, are you going to bring a sign to game day Saturday morning? Can you imagine what the signs will be on game day on Saturday morning, and paint a little picture of where this set will be so everybody listening will know exactly where to go, and maybe some advice on a sign to draw?
Oh man, signs. There's going to be so many signs. Like I haven't put I am not taking a sign. I do know there's a lot of folks around here. We got a lot of student assistants. There's a bunch of the fraternities and sororities and the kids in the dorms. A lot of excitement. And the thing about smart people, there's a lot of smart people walking around this campus. They're also really creative. There's a lot of creative brains. So I would anticipate some good signs. I think the creativity in this community will shine on Saturday morning. But I will not be bringing a sign. I might bring some donuts. I might bring a breakfast burritos or maybe some Top Dogs. I don't know if you've ever had a Top Dog, Yogi. Very, very popular on campus. I think people be eating some Top Dogs. And be right out in front of the library. It's going to be an incredible setting there. The backdrop's pretty amazing. And then it's going to be a beautiful day on Saturday and early morning. So we're telling all the students that we know their studies are very important to them, but they're going to set aside Saturday and study on Sunday. So we've decided that as a football program, and we're going to push that message out to the student body.
Couldn't agree more. It's going to be a day every Cal student will remember forever, because it doesn't happen very often. Look at the history of it in that regard. Coach, I know you're not on social media, so I know you haven't been sucked into the Calgorithm, but it has been an amazing journey for all of us who do get sucked into the internet.
I hear bits and pieces, which is probably Probably good. Just, arm's length is probably good. I want fans to be fanatical. I want our fans to be fanatical. And again, the internet can bring out, creativity really shines through on the internet and social media. And so I've got a couple glimpses from our recruiting staff and some people around, and not disappointed with the creativity coming out of the Cal fan base.
No, I don't think it's going to be slowing down. I know you won't slow down either. You've got practice, you've got meetings. Thank you so much midweek to come join us at Y Option to talk about a big game. I know every game is the same for you guys around there, but around the country, this is a huge opportunity for your program. So happy there is a much deserved, well-deserved spotlight on the Cal Bears. Coach, thanks for the time.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Yogi.
There it is. Head coach Justin Wilcox. It's the Afterglow. Yogi Roth, Jim Thornby. That conversation, of course, presented by our founding partner, 76, keeping you in the know as you are on the go, go, go. That was Justin Wilcox. He is going, Jim. They are going. The Cal Bears are hoping to not really stop under his leadership. What did you take away from our conversation?
Well, he said it's his first podcast he's ever done, but it definitely won't be his last. We told him that as soon as he hung up with that one. But it was cool to hear him talk about, he's not sucked into the algorithm, but he is definitely aware of what's going on. The people in the building are definitely aware and spreading it to him. And I think it's Saturday, all through Friday afternoon into the evening, into Saturday morning. Everyone take your nap on Saturday afternoon and then go back to the game on Saturday night. It's going to be quite the experience out there. I don't know if game day is really knows what's in store for them with the trip to Berkeley.
No, I saw Reese Davis put out like how people don't think Cal fans are going to show up. I think I responded like, dude, they're coming. Like, don't worry. Because I think there's something from the West Coast, like we get it, right? Like game day is not always going to come out to the West Coast, right? Whether it was a handful of years where there wasn't an elite team or everybody's kind of beating each other on the weekend that you would anticipate the next weekend would be when game day would show up.
Oh, we had a bunch of those. A bunch of those. It was like where we knew that the team was in the conversation and you're like, oh, come on. And then they would lose that Saturday and be like,
come on.
Like, totally. It would literally be like getting ready to book a plane flight, knowing that there was whatever, and then I'm at another game, and I'm have the thing queued up, and then I'm like, oh, well, I can cancel that flight.
Totally. And I got to imagine, like, on one hand, if you're like producing game day, you're like, this is gorgeous as the sun is coming up in Southern California or Northern California, and you're going to see the bay behind Cal Stadium. Like, it's just gorgeous, right? That campus, like the scenics will be insane. And I'm sure there's a version of like, dude, 6 a.m. local, that's like a 3 a.m. But I'll say this, like your body, like all the coaches that I've talked to that are now like traveling east for games, they're not changing travel schedules, right? And the same thing, like Kurt Signetti took his team out to UCLA and they flew on the same exact time. So they landed at like 8 p.m. local, right? Or whatever it was. So like they were, I just think that the time thing is a thing, but I'll be curious to see. Hopefully they come on back west because I think the storylines out here are pretty strong. I don't know how they're not definitely locked in to come to Oregon, Ohio State. That is clearly the game next weekend too. I know it is a loaded weekend. I understand that to the rest of the country, but that is a pretty big one. So, all right, my takeaway.
Keep it all under wraps until the very last second.
I love it. What social media is pushing to get game day to come after Cal? I don't know. I'll have to check. I think my takeaways were a few from Justin Wilcox. One is he's seasoned, man, right? Like he was like when I met him, he was the young defensive coordinator for Washington. He did like his first interview at the Pac-12 networks at the time. I remember it. And then he went on and his path, right? He was SC defensive coordinator. It was Wisconsin defensive coordinator. Then he gets the Cal head job. And he gets offered jobs every single year. So the thing that stood out to me is his desire to be a Cal. Right? I loved what he said. Like, it's imperfect. He's right. Like nothing is. Like, places are complicated. A lot of colleges are complicated. Like, there's a lot of different dynamics. But he has the agency to say, this is where I want to be. I want to win here. Like, I think it could be done here. And it can be. This is now the fourth straight episode or fourth straight week where we have said and pleaded to the Cal community, continue to give this program the resources. I love they've got new leadership there who sees football and athletics for what it can do for the entire campus. Saturday is an example of that. I think Cal can compete. I think they can go win the ACC. I think they got a lot of opportunities if they keep pouring into the program like they have since new leadership has showed up on campus. So that's my spiel for today. I am on my way to Minneapolis. First time ever, Jim. I'll keep you posted on social media what it's like. We'll make sure I hit you from the booth up top after the game. So make sure you follow Y Option on social media. And as always, thank you to you, Jim, for the time, effort, energy, and to Justin Wilcox, our guest, and everybody at Cal who made that happen. And of course, our founding partner, 76, always a proud partner, especially of the conversations we're having with these incredible guests. So enjoy your game day. Go to game day if you're in California. Drive up, drive over, wake up. It's an amazing experience. Jim will be there. Hit him on social media. Hang out with Thornby. Send a selfie. If you do, we'll send you a hat. Something like that, Jim. We'll have some fun with it, all right?
All right, let's do it.
All right, there it is. There it is. All right, lots of love. Peace.